Hello, this is an assessment for restoration of a Bechstein Model 8 upright piano made in 1937. Now, first of all, as we've shown on many other videos, we can tell how much wear the piano's had by how much wear is on this pedal compared to that one, which doesn't get used very much. So the sustain pedal, you can see it's also sloping very slightly, so a reasonable amount of wear, but as we'll see from the hammers, not an excessive amount. Now, interestingly, this piano has got ivory keys, but one-piece ivories, and I don't think it would have had one-piece ivories originally. 1937, quite late for Bechstein. There's less than 1,000 made in a year compared to about 4,000 at their height of production. So I'm not sure if they would have been original. I would have thought they would be two-piece with the line across. So that's, maybe if you're in the trade and can comment on that, that would be useful to know. It has hole needs bushing on that book holder, but there are other issues, obviously major issues actually, that we need to look at. First of all, we look at the casework here. By the way, we're not certain what this wood is. We're pretty sure it's not mahogany. For 1937, mahogany would be quite common. Rosewood would be uncommon at that age. And someone suggested kingwood, our polisher actually. If you've got if you're a wood person, and then you perhaps might help us out there as to what this wood might be. But it's very tasteful and very interesting grain, so that's encouraging. But you see, it has got sun fading, so to get rid of that, or to make this perfect, we would need to fully repolish the whole piano. Now, the first thing we need to look at is the underlying tone of the piano, as we said many times before. And it has a typical rich sound, very similar to a similar aged Model 7 taller upright that we have in stock. Such a pleasing tone, really. Now, it's mellower than say a modern Yamaha, so if you're used to a modern Yamaha, this is considerably mellower, and might be a shock if you're not used to the mellowness, but this was common of the age. This piano has been refaced. We can see the hammers have been refaced here. Not only can we see they've been shaped there, but there's some little bits of debris here, which you can see from the felt, felt that's come off. And so it's important to reface the piano so that not so much hammer hits the string, and then you get a cleaner sound, as we said before. And it's been well refaced. You could possibly brighten the tone a little bit more than that, but I think it's more or less as bright as it will get. Unless you put new hammers on, which would brighten the tone a lot more. It's a little bit on the weak side there. I think probably we could improve that though with a little bit more accurate refacing possibly. I don't know whether we can get it more accurate. We could have a try anyway, and certainly otherwise if you want it brighter still, then you'd have to change the hammers, I think. So that's something we'll investigate. But a good break point there. Often Bechsteins at that point are a bit, the sound doesn't travel as well. Perhaps just lost some of its crown, but this one is perfect, so that's good news. And right the way down, I'm going to the bass. That string there, I noticed, was a bit weak sounding. We're going to look at a major problem now that the piano has, and the client who's given it to assess did say that tuning wasn't stable. Let's listen to this. It's reasonable. So that's concert pitch, by the way. So A441, in fact. That octave, this octave, that one, very bad. So the bass notes have gone flat, and something we rarely encounter on Bechsteins, the problem that it's got. Now, if we look at the bass bridge, so the bottom end of the bass bridge is fine, but if you look at the tenor area here, where the bichords are, if you look carefully, you'll see the holes have elongated. The bridge pins have moved over, therefore the notes have gone flat. I'm surprised they're not buzzing as well, because if they go straight, then they can start to buzz. As this string becomes absolutely straight, then it buzzes on the top end, so that's quite common. They've moved over, you can see where they were before. This line here, it's almost straight, and gone very flat. so that's the reason for that. And however much you tune it, obviously that's going to tend to pull more and more, and will start to buzz eventually. Soundboard is in very good condition. As I say, it's unusual for a Bechstein to be found with that problem. Don't know if it's because it's a later one and they're more prone to it. If you've had experience in the trade from Bechstein bridges being faulty, so the bridge there is perfect. So it's just that bit of the bridge that's the problem, and that's causing it to go out of tune. By the way, there's white powder at the bottom here. I think I know what that is. Now, if we look at the action, we can see white powder on the action here. Now, what's happened here is that somebody has lubricated this with Teflon. We think could lubricate it with Teflon or with French chalk, that is talc. But just feeling it here, it's got a. I'm pretty sure that's Teflon. Both substances are very good for dry lubricants, which is a very good idea to put dry lubricant on. New pianos have dry lubricant at the equivalent point on grand pianos. On uprights, you rarely see technicians doing this, so that's an indicator of a fastidious technician, really. Having a look at the action in general, this seems to have good quality tapes, and they haven't broken at all. They're not cracking in the middle. So unless they're taken off and put back on, I don't think they're going to break. So that's encouraging, and there doesn't seem to be any slack in the keys, so it's been well regulated. Let's just look at the dampers and when they come off, and they're coming off with the keys roughly together at halfway point, so that's good. Lifting up the damper rod, this is the right hand pedal, they're coming off reasonably together, and it could be refined a bit more, but they're generally good, except they're not coming off enough. At this point here, they need to pull out the strings really completely. I think they do with the hammers. If we press let's try these two here, and they're pulling out a bit further, so they should be pulling out that far really with the pedal, because if they're not, they could be just touching the string, and especially over the years they will not pull off at all, so the pedal needs to pull them off a bit further. That's an easy adjustment obviously, but something that needs doing. But the general regulation is reasonably good. I forgot to mention, actually usually comes first on the videos, that the tuning pins, are they tight or not? These are original tuning pins, so original strings. You can say, as we said many times before, this is a medium star lever, and these are very small tuning pins. It's typical Bechstein. That's very good. It means if you restring it, you can put medium sized ones in. So some modern manufacturers put large ones in to start with, which is a nuisance if you ever want to redo them. But that's good. Another indicator of whether, sorry, I'm going to go the other side. Have they been knocked in at all? They haven't. They're tight tuning pins. They've not been knocked in, so they're going to be very stable. So the instability is coming because of the bass bridge being broken, but the piano is otherwise generally very encouraged by this piano, because like the one we have in stock, Model 7, very similar to all the piano, wonderful tone, just sings so beautifully, and such a full sound, and just lasts long sustain, and a delight to play really. And the action on Model 7s and 8s, if it's regulated properly, also feels very wonderful. Because we are going to repair the bass bridge, there is the option of course of restringing the whole piano. Normally if tuning pins are tight, it's really hard to match on any top quality manufacturer, to match the bass string tone they've got. So you could redo them. You'll obviously get a slightly brighter, slightly stronger sound in the bass. That string there, which is slightly different, we might be able to turn that, and that will make a difference anyway. But replacing bass strings, if tuning pins are tight, which they are very tight, then it's not something we'd normally do, but it can obviously be done if required. There's bass strings this size, beautiful match, beautiful tone match with it on the break point, so I wouldn't be inclined to do that. Just want to have a look at this bridge again before we finish the video, and thinking about how we can do this without normally take the frame out, the metal frame here, and then you obviously can easily work on the bridge, put piano on its back, and that would be the normal way to repair that. If you're going to restring the piano and so on, it wouldn't be too difficult, because obviously you take everything apart then. We could take everything apart. The soundboard doesn't need repairing. So it's just a matter of how we can do this without to try and make it as economical as possible. Whether we can use a router, putting blocks of wood either side, and then just rouse off the top of the bridge and then redo a new one. As I say, this problem doesn't normally occur on a Bechstein or high quality piano, and if it's going to be fully restored, it's not going to be a problem to redo it, to try and redo it without fully restoring the piano. If you're a technician and watching this video, have got any ideas or had experience with this, that'd be useful to know, because obviously we want to do a 100% professional job. You can see where the strings are straightened up there. These pins seem to be all right at the moment, and so it's just the bicords here. Any thoughts about why this might have happened as well would be very helpful. So we've got to get our thinking cap on. Basically, not that we can't do the job, it's just trying to make it as economical as possible. But normally this is quite routine to recap a bridge. This is a Bösendorfer Grand of a similar age, and the bridge has been recapped, and you can see it's just to obviously get a perfect job. But the frame's come out and the bridge has just been redone, so that's standard practice. But then obviously we've restrung the piano. So going back to the Bechstein again, so what can we do without taking the frame off? No need to recondition the soundboard because it's in very good condition. So just to repair this really. So any thoughts would be greatly appreciated. I did mention this is a one-piece ivory here, which is unusual and probably not original, I would imagine. But very, very good ivory, except there's some little splits, but this is normal and they probably won't get much worse. Little splits that way, and you get that on ivory unless you replace them. Obviously it's not the disaster, and you can't feel this at all. So that's an assessment for restoration of a Bechstein Model 8 upright piano made in 1937, and apart from the case being faded as we've seen here, that's obviously something we do French polishing. It takes about 70 hours, so it's not a cheap job unfortunately, but we like to do the best we can, so there's no way around that one. Now they're very mellow pianos, Bechsteins, so if you are buying a Bechstein used to a modern piano, then you will find it quite a change really. But if you want a really full mellow sound, we could change the hammers, which will make it brighter. But the original hammers match so well that it's just, we do that really, we have to think long and hard before doing that. Now, there's a major problem. If you listen to this octave here, you may not pick it up on the video that well, but they're going flat, and that's because of the bridge pins. Around there you can hear. Through here, so it's all the bichord bass strings, the bridge pins have moved sideways, the bridge is split, so difficult to know what to do that economically. We think even without taking the whole piano apart, it's going to take us some time, because we're going to have to use a router or something like that to get the old cap off and then put a new cap on. Could take much longer than you would think. So taking the whole piano apart would be no problem if we did that, and then it would be sensible to restring at the same time. Though the piano doesn't desperately need restringing, so lots of thinking to do here. It sings beautifully at every part of the piano, especially in the mid treble where you play the most, which is so the most important part of it, but right through to the bottom bass. The bottom bass strings, if they were new, then they would be slightly richer, but you've got to make sure you match, you don't make a mismatch with that. Thank you very much for listening.